Alright, episode 15. I think I'm recording. Yeah, alright. Cool. Cool, alright. We have our map. Okay, so I didn't say this, but I did lose the file. Apparently I hadn't saved it in a while, so I did my best to reconstruct the map from what I remember, and I think I did a good job. I don't know, you could still kind of see the borders are a little scuffed in South Africa, but everything else is mostly the same. So that was fortunate. It was from like episode 5 too. It was from a while ago, so fortunately I was able to rebuild it. Also, I added major cities. I don't know if they'll play much of a part in anything, but they're here. They're even here in Estonia. You just can't really see them. They weirdly blend in, but they're here. Yeah. Alright. Back at it. Back at what if civilization started over. We'll move over here to Oceania, where we'll see the green Borneo Filipino country expanding a little more into these islands. Whoa. What's happening now? This is episode 15 and I still don't know how to use paint.net. But they'll land on this strange shaped peninsula, and they'll move across the west side of Papua New Guinea, occupying a good chunk of it and these like smaller islands around it. Meanwhile, over here, the Java country will try to make a landing in Australia, which will go pretty badly for them. They'll land like over here, and pretty quickly their colony just isn't sustainable, so they leave. However, they do land over... Actually, what parts of Australia are like super livable? Pretty sure up here is... because I know there's like the desert up in here, and then most of the population's along like this coastline right there, and then there's like Perth and stuff over here, but we'll just say that Java lands over here in this like westish coast and establish like a sort of a colony. Sort of. We'll see how long that lasts. But anyways, going over here, we're actually going to have an even farther discovery being made. Cambodia is looking to explore the Pacific. And whoa, did not mean to do that. They're looking to discover anything that's out here in the great expansive... oh my god, it keeps doing that. They're looking to discover some islands, and they'll be the first to discover these. I don't really know how to mark them because that'll mess it up. Maybe if I turn the brush size down to like 1 and then recolor like... there we go. Just like that. There we go. Actually, that looks terrible. I'm gonna remove it. Just know that these islands right over there, these I think those are the Mariana Islands. I want to say they are. They are Cambodian. However, I feel like I'm saying that a lot. We're gonna be seeing North China get involved in a little bit of a heat as they attempt to form an alliance with some of their neighbors, because they are concerned about some of their neighbors, potentially Japan and South China and even Green Siberia. So they're going to try to form an alliance. Now, I don't actually know how to do alliances on the map, so I think what I'm going to do is turn the brush size up to like... no, that's not gonna... okay, what if I turn it up to like 10? That doesn't look right though. 40, I guess. My idea was that I was going to put down like different colored markers for alliances. I guess I could still do that, but I don't know. You know, I'll just name them. I don't even... I know everyone wants me to do a nice symbol, you know, a nice triangle or something. Triangle alliance. I don't know. I don't know how to do that, so I'm just going to name them. Here we have China, North China, forming an alliance with this South Japanese country, which makes Japan very mad, so they form an alliance of their own with these guys, South China. So we see North China allied with South Japan, and North Japan allied with South China. So it's like an inverse situation going on there. But it's not only South China that's going to be on this alliance. It's going to be a couple other countries, most notably Siberia and the small, like, I don't know which region this is. Maybe this is Mongolia. It's like maybe South Mongolia, Central China. This is like a West Chinese country. They're going to also join in on the alliance. They just broke away from North China like a few episodes ago. It might have been oh my gosh, I can't speak. It might have been last episode, I don't remember. However, North China will counter with an alliance of their own, bringing in these guys, the Burma Siamese nation, and Borneo. Big pickup there. They're growing fast. So we have tensions going on in East Asia. So now we have an alliance that looks something like here. I'll draw like temporary symbols for the circles. We have North China, South Japan, Burma, Siam, and Borneo. That's the gang. And then for the other team we have Siberia, Central West China, South China, normal Japan, or like Central North Japan, and I feel like I'm missing one. 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like I'm missing one. What in the dementia happened? I guess that's all I said. I guess we'll throw in these guys. They will join in on the triangle team. So, more on that in a minute. I'm sure this will lead to a war. Well, I mean, I know. Yeah, it'll lead to a war. I guess I am the one making this scenario. But first, we will see tensions over here in North Europe, particularly between the pink and purple teams. Oh my god, I'm on the wrong brush. These pink and purple teams are a little bit tense with each other because these guys want to invade into the British Isles. And the pink team's really fighting them on it, like, no, don't, but they did. They straight up invaded this, and now they control the English Channel completely. So, something might happen. It will. But, back over here, regarding this war, what would start it? I'm gonna say it starts with... Man, it could start in a lot of places. Let's go with China trying to, actually, we'll have Japan invading, their southern neighbor. So they move in pretty quickly. They occupy this, actually, I think I just colored in a city. Yeah. They occupy this island, and then pretty soon after, we're able to just completely take them over, which obviously starts war between them and, North China, but North China has an alliance, Japan has an alliance. Boom, East Asia is in the midst of war. So the first fighting will take place in the Japanese Sea, or is this North China Sea? I don't know what it's called. This area. We'll see a lot of fighting between the two sides over here, particularly around Korea, where Japan is hoping to make a landing. This island right here is still Chinese right now, but Japan's like right outside it, so it's a big naval battle. I could try to draw that out, but I don't feel like it. We'll move to a different area on the map though. Over here in Siberia. Whoa. I'm wondering how many, like, I think sometimes I say whoa, but you, the viewer, can't see anything. So it just sounds like I'm schizophrenic. So that's fun. Anyways, Siberia will start moving out into the western parts of China. They'll move pretty fast too. They'll blitz out from here, kind of into this empty area, but they have aspirations to take this city. So they'll take a wide swath of land, moving closer to it. Up here in the north is less protected, but they do still move some assets out into like the North Chinese area. As for these guys, they'll try to make a move here around their capital, and they'll be able to secure some land, but they're unable to capture this major city down here. Over here in the mainland China, they'll make some moves. They'll capture this city right here, and overall make a strong push into central Chinese areas. However, they aren't able to capture anywhere near the coast or over here. Over here in Borneo, they're here for support. I imagine they're helping with the naval battle. They're having like a big clash over here. Maybe they want Taiwan and this island. I don't know what this island's called, but whatever. So yeah, they're having a naval battle, but this is helpful for North China because these are forces that otherwise would be going over to Japan and helping them win the naval battle over here, but they are not winning. Well, they're like, it's a draw for now. As for the Siamese front, should I call them Burma or Siam? I think they're more Burman or Burmese. I don't know. I'm just gonna call them Burma, Siam. But they'll move in a little bit, particularly over here along the coast where they'll capture this city and threaten this one. And this is a pretty major economic area for this country. They do not want that to happen. So once pushes start happening over here, they'll kind of neglect this front line and pull a lot of forces over here to deal with this upcoming threat. Meanwhile, North China will kind of get their act together and will push into this area. Along the front, they'll push back against this major city and around this area over here. In addition, they'll blitz through the east side of this country where almost all their economic assets were, and they pretty quickly fall into a state of collapse. China kind of just walks in and takes all this land to the point where Siberia has to pretty much come in and occupy most of the land to stop it from falling into North China's grasp. So these guys are just, they didn't even last. They might have only lasted for one episode. I don't know if they were created last episode or not. I think they were. But they're toast. They're done. So they're cooked. As for the remaining part of them, they'll just fall under South China's occupation, which they do kind of poorly. This isn't a very stable area at all, but better than falling into these guys' hands. Which, speaking of which, they'll push back against the Siberians, taking back a solid amount of land, pushing their front line away from their major city in the middle of nowhere. They won't really get super close to their major city right here or here, but they'll do something. Meanwhile, over here in Japan, they'll attempt to cross over into the Japanese Isles through here, but they are denied. They do not make it. So yeah, they're getting cooked. Well, they're not getting super cooked, but they're underwhelming. As for this small gold, like, East Bengali country, they'll move into the inland areas of Burma, which will immediately, this front right here is just done. Gonzo. And all their forces are pushing westward, and it'll happen immediately, and it won't be great for this small gold team. Once the forces arrive, they push out from here and completely capture their entire coastline, including their capital city, and from there they kind of just bull rush inwards, completely securing the majority of their territory. They push a little bit westward and capture the city, and immediately the whole country just surrenders over. They don't want the smoke. Is that another? I think it's another case where it does that weird, like... Yep. Hold up. Where's the paint tool? There we go. I don't know if you can see those very well in the video, but they're gone. This small gold country is gone. However, that did come at a cost, because South China's coming back. They've bull rushed. I feel like I've used that word too many times in a row, but they seize most of their coastline along the South China Sea and push a lot inwards. They take a lot of this, like, not southwest China, but like south central Chinese territory. They take a lot of land. So while Burma, Siam might have taken out one of their greater foes, they still lose a lot of land. They're in danger. Over here in the South China Sea, nothing's happening. It's pretty much a stalemate, as is this front line over here. However, Japan will now make a effort over here in the north. They cross over and occupy the southern part of this island. This isn't Sakhalin, that's this one, but whatever this one's called. They occupy like this tail end of it, and they're unable to push any deeper inward, but they do secure that area. Over here in like this front line, which is probably one of the main ones of the war, they're going to attempt to push back against the front line with South China. They'll take a decent bit of land, but they won't really be able to push into any major cities. But they will make a strong spearhead into inland China, which does begin to strain supply lines to the west side of the country. And subsequently, some of the forces stationed in East Bengali will move out to secure some of the areas. It's not much, and they currently have bigger fish to fry with them blitzing inward, but that's okay. And then some of this area will be not ceded over, but like Siberia, Mongolia will move in to make sure it doesn't fall into North China's hands, which it will, because they'll make a very strong campaign westward to push back the Siberians. They'll be able to reach the outskirts and capture the city, which is a big blow for basically all the economy in like this side of the country. So from up here, a really big front line emerges. A very not dense and scattered front line, but pretty fierce front line. And very quickly North China will take a lot of land over here until attrition sets in, essentially. They can't move anymore. Over here in Japan, they will finally be able to secure the entire southern part of the island. Then they'll push up and cut it in two. From here, the entire west part of the island falls apart. And this part in the east holds out for a little bit, but eventually capitulates over to Japan, who now controls the entirety of I think modern day Japan, unless you count Sakhalin as Japanese, which some might. Anyway, speaking of Sakhalin, they will now make a landing in the southern part of the island and start to creep up the island. Now at this point, North China's kind of exhausted. They've overextended themselves. Perhaps they weren't as powerful as they thought they were, or at least they needed more time to be ready for a conflict before it actually happened. But a large amount of wearing down on their military will lead to a massive collapse in their side of the war. South China will basically reclaim all of the land that was occupied by them during their blitz into central China. They won't be able to take any major cities of theirs, but they do all right. Down here in the south, they completely cut off the coastline from Burma, Siam, and they'll just keep moving inland. They'll capture this major city down here and this one up here as well, and that'll lead to these guys surrendering. They'll hash out a deal later. I won't color them in fully, but they surrender, which just leaves, I believe, this green team down here in the Philippines, Filipino Borneo, and it leaves North China. Great. Oh, and yeah, so Burma surrenders. So North China is very weak. Not very weak. They're struggling a lot. Their opponent down here is still holding the line. They aren't really super affected by this, but they're not changing the tide of war. And these guys just surrendered, so it's just them and these guys. So they'll hash out a deal with South China and Japan to fix what's happening. And this deal will look something like this. Let's get the border editing brush out. So over here in Burma, Siam, they will... Do they reclaim their coast? Probably not. So over here... Oh shoot, I'm on the wrong color. Over here, they'll be able to retain some of their inland areas over here that China took. And in the north, they'll lose a little more land. But these lands and their two major cities will be handed back to them. They'll also be able to annex East Bengali. No one really cared about them too much. Sad. But this northern area will go over to these guys. Yeah. Alright. So, that's the treaty over here. As for these guys, they basically gain nothing from the war, which leaves them kind of pissed, and really makes their relations with South China especially bad. They were already bad, but they're horrible now, and they have a lot of pent-up anger. And compared to the others, their military wasn't very cooked by the war. They're still armed and dangerous. As for the Chinese frontier, over here we'll see South China gain a little more out of the peace treaty. They'll get a few key pieces of land over here, and along the west they'll gain like a couple more miles of coastline or whatever, but for the most part this front line was stagnated, so not much work needed to be done to achieve peace for either side. So that's what it looks like. As for Siberia, this land over here is just too... No one can control it. South China certainly cannot control it. North China certainly cannot control it, and Siberia is definitely struggling to hold on to it. So a deal will be struck with third-party Tibet to occupy the land. It'll look something like this. The major city here will be held on to by the Siberians, but the rest of this will be fully claimed by the Tibetans, so that they can have a better odds of not erupting into chaos. As for the Siberian North Chinese frontier, Siberia will be able to get a little bit back from their land losses, but they will not actually be able to get back this city. They lose out on this city. But over here in this kind of area, they'll be able to gain some solid chunks of land. They'll get all that. Some of it back, some of it's new territory. But the border now looks like this, for now. Over to Japan, this is where the real brunt of the treaty is done. So first off, the North Chinese will be getting back all of Sakhalin. Japan's willing to move out, as well as any occupation they might have had these islands. I don't think they got there, but they leave these islands. Actually, they don't leave all of them. They are ceded over these islands in the treaty, with the line being drawn here. But they gain these 3 islands, and they secure all of this, as well as these. And in addition, they also get that island. I won't color it in, but they get this island and this island. So the island divide looks something like this. And Japan obviously takes control of all of the north, so they control all of their lands. Japan is unified. And that should be it for the treaty. I don't think I missed anything. That is how that conflict went. But one major repercussion of it is the extreme instability in North China will lead to a civil war. And this civil war will lead to the creation of a new country who I'm going to have to figure out a good color for. We'll go with like this dark purple. Deep purple. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. We'll go with, I don't want it to be too brutal on the eyes. Okay, we'll go with this. So this movement starts over here in their like northeast part, so like over in Manchuria essentially, and it'll quickly take control of all of this area. They'll move inland and basically cut off Siberia from North China, and quickly Siberia falls over to this new movement. This rogue major city up here, the northernmost major city in the world, I think, at this point, but all of Siberia will fall over to this new rebellion. They will so now we have this, and North China being far too incapacitated to try and fight them, try to work out a treaty deal, which looks something like this. They give up, actually I'm on the wrong color, they give up even more land to them. That looks something like this. And this little major city down here is also theirs, so they lose a lot from this. In fact, they lost like over 50% of their land. Granted, this isn't super like valuable land yet, but Siberia is born. Their capital city will be, let's get out the brush tool. Their capital will not be in Sakhalin. It'll be like, we'll put it right here. All right, cool. I kind of wanted to put it up here, but I won't do that. But yeah, now Siberia is their own country, and they actually have exploration on their minds. they move out this way, obviously, but they also move out this way to Russia. Now, what I did not know about this map is that this tip of Siberia is actually over here in the West Hemisphere. So they move into this. It's very cold. Almost inhospitable. But they'll secure all of this. They'll even secure all of that. This little island here. They actually won't land in Alaska across this sea. Right here, they won't just jump across. They'll discover the Aleutian Islands. I think they're called the Aleutian Islands. They'll start over here, and then they'll work their way up, discovering this chain of islands, eventually moving into this peninsula, down this peninsula, where they realize, holy crap, that's a lot of land. They'll occupy this island, they'll move a little bit in westward, where they eventually discover, boop, it's really easy. And so they begin their occupation of the very far west Alaskan front. Eventually, after probably years, they're able to secure a healthy chunk of it, something like this. They don't move too much farther inland because they're still a developing country, but they will be the first country to arrive on North America. They will be the first, but now let's take a look at the second, Scotland, who will discover this part of Greenland. They'll take it over. It's relatively close to Iceland, so they'll occupy it. They'll also establish a second frontier down here, and eventually these just meet up and become one big zone of occupation. They don't know how big Greenland is yet. For all they know, Greenland's like slightly bigger than Iceland, or even just like about as big as Iceland. For all they know, it's like that. And it's like, well, that's still wider than Iceland, but you get the gist. So yeah, one country, the new Siberians, have arrived in North America. These guys have arrived in Greenland. Who will be the third? That will remain to be seen in next episode. However, we'll see one last, not one last, that sounds like the video's ending, it's not just yet, but we'll see a new player enter the Western Hemisphere, we'll say. Now, what player do you think it is? Maybe it's North China. Probably not, they're pretty weak. Maybe it's South China. They got a lot of land from Burma, Siam, and even North China. They could be in the mood to make some journeys into the Western Hemisphere through the Pacific. But the Pacific is huge, it's so big. Maybe it's these guys, the green Borneo Filipino country. Maybe they're looking to make some moves this way. It could be Japan, maybe, having just won a war, looking to expand. But it'll actually be none of these. It'll be the country I mentioned at the beginning of this video. It'll be Cambodia. They'll, from these islands, launch a few more Pacific adventures, we'll call them. And eventually one of these Pacific adventures leads them to the Western Hemisphere, where they discover this small island of Hawaii. They take claim of it, and while not technically North America, it's still kind of in the region-ish, so we have a third power closing in on the Americas in Cambodia. So kind of an unlikely trilogy of countries to begin making moves on the new world, quote-unquote. But we have Siberia, Scotland, and Cambodia. But now for tensions in North Europe. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the purple Danish country won't declare war on Scotland, obviously, because that would be difficult to do. That doesn't mean they won't do it, but it would be difficult to do. They're going to launch an invasion of England. They're going to secure the east part of the country and begin moving in. And immediately, they'll face heavy backlash from this Belgian, basically French country here, who will basically tell them to stop or they're going to whoop them. But they do not stop, and they occupy the full country. And so, without further ado, these guys move in, and they move in fast, and they completely take control of the entirety of the English colony. And it looks like war is on the horizon. But before war can completely erupt between these two, Scotland gets involved and basically says, look, we get you two our big hotshot North European ballers, but we're forming an alliance with North and South Ireland and Wales, and if you do not get off the continent, we will collectively beat you up, whoop you. And these two think about it, and they're like, huh, no. So France will immediately 180 on their position on the Danish occupation of the British Isles. They'll work together, and they'll hatch a deal. They want to occupy the entirety of these islands, with the deal looking something like this. France wants all of South England, and they want all of the Ireland. And the Danish Germans can have all of Scotland. So they launch their attack. The first target on their list being Wales, and they'll move in pretty quickly, securing the south part of the island in no time and threatening the capital. But before they can secure the capital, a massive wave of Scottish soldiers come crashing down. They take control of this city, and then take control of this one, completely kicking the French out of where modern-day London is. And as this push begins moving left, France completely abandons the Welsh front, and Wales is able to reclaim all their land. And France is stunned. They're like, there's no way, right? And so they call upon their frenemy, Danish Germany, Purple Denmark, to assist them. And they'll try. They'll make a landing over here in this part and secure this city. However, they will almost immediately be kicked out. They'll be pushed off the island. And France kind of just like, well, what do we do? And it gets much worse for them as Scotland completely moves all the way down to Cornwall. Not Cornwall, this is like South England. But they'll take control of this, threatening France's control of the English Channel. Granted, their navy still dominates along here. They have control in that sense, but the Scottish have been able to take control of that area. Meanwhile, Wales will attempt to push down a little farther and take control of Cornwall. And with heavy assistance from the Irish, they will be able to take control of the entire thing, kicking the French completely out of the British Isles, which is rough. France really thought they were just going to be able to stroll in and dominate this area. However, they were not. So they're going to try a sneak attack. They send forces out through the Pacific beyond the reach of Wales and launch an attack on the west part of South Ireland. And this one goes a little better. They're able to secure the entire west side of the country. And things freeze for a minute. They aren't able to do much. And then the Danish Germans try another offensive over here. They're able to secure it a little better this time. They get a strong foothold, but they kind of wait a little bit because things seem a little too quiet. And sure enough, they are too quiet because Scotland's been preparing something combat related, but not in regards to the British Isles. they've been busy getting a very powerful country to join on their side, and that country is Estonia. Estonia joins the war out of nowhere and immediately blitzes into the east part of Danish Prussia, I guess, and capture 4 separate major cities, pushing into modern-day Poland. And immediately, Denmark, Germany's just out. They remove all soldiers from the British Isles. They basically go, fine, you win. No more, no more. They sign peace with them, leaving just France to try and deal with them, which we'll see how that goes. But Estonia begins blitzing through the east part of the Polish areas. They secure this major city and begin pushing even closer and closer. And as they near the outskirts of the city, Denmark goes, mercy, peace, please. And Estonia is willing, so they will drop a peace treaty. Now, Estonia didn't necessarily want all that land. They are pretty big, it would be hard to hold on to. They mostly wanted more coast along the Baltic Sea. So they wanted all those major cities, but they're willing to give back a large portion of this, like, Polish land over here. So that goes back to Danish Prussia, but it was a very powerful distraction and really kind of cements Scotland as a major European country. Meanwhile, France is still trying their invasion, and it actually goes significantly better than before. They're able to capture the capital of South Ireland, and they actually completely occupy them, leaving just North Ireland. And then they also try to start their Cornwall invasion again, which they're able to secure the very edge of it. So that's pretty cool for them. But like I said, Scotland's got away with making neighboring countries get involved in conflicts, and there are 2 very powerful countries on France's southern front that Scotland has been in talks with. Most notably Rome, the most powerful country on the earth in this world, who does have plenty of reason to invade. And this will be the country that comes to Scotland's aid. They'll move straight across and completely cut off French access to the Mediterranean Sea. They'll also capture the city. They'll take over all this land. Now, Scotland is... not Scotland, France. Why did I say Scotland? France is panicking hardcore. My headphones are about to fall, man. France is panicking hardcore. They'll send some forces in to push back. But over here, things just worked out very well for Scotland. Wales will completely push back and occupy all of Cornwall. And this North Irish team actually won't reinstate the independence of the South Irish team. They'll just take control of the entire island under their Ireland. But no one really cares too much because the enemy's France. But that is kind of messed up. But whatever. Also, over here in Scotland, we see them officially unify with Wales, forming the Scottish-Welsh Union, the United Kingdom. But not Britain, because Britain doesn't really exist as an independent country in this timeline. In this timeline, Scotland is the dominant nation in the British Isles. But from here, the English Channel influence of the French significantly lessens. They don't lose it, obviously. They still mostly have... They're stronger over here than Scotland, but they don't have like a 100% dominance over it. They have like a 65% control over it. But the big threat here is Rome, who's completely dominating them in the southern part of their country, so they'll strike for peace. And like Estonia, Rome only really wanted one thing, so they're willing to go to the negotiation table. And the negotiation looks something like this. These guys get this big major city back. Rome takes control of this one, and these guys get this much territory back. But they lose access to the Mediterranean, further enhancing Rome's stranglehold over the West Mediterranean. Because even like this Spanish country here, their influence is pretty much cut off by the presence of the Roman military having, or Roman like economy kind of limiting them over here. And in the East Mediterranean they still have like a pretty strong presence. The only one that really threatens them is like the old Imperians and like Sparta a little bit, but for the most part Rome's just got the whole Mediterranean in their back pocket. But we see the British Isles are independent of the French and Danish, or Belgian, Prussian, Danish, whatever you want to call them. I guess I'll call these guys like Belgium, France, and then I'll call these guys Danish, Prussia, for fun. So that went pretty well for them. For the final event of this video, we will see the invasion of Scandinavia by Estonia. They will not be able to invade the full thing. They will move into the parts that they want to annex. They will march in the north, kind of as a distraction because their main efforts are along the Baltic Sea. They'll move in, secure a large chunk of the land, and from here the two nations will meet for peace. In this peace treaty, Estonia is given a lot of land that they didn't occupy, but mostly because they kind of have Scandinavia's hand twisted behind their back, so they can't really do anything. So just like that, all this land is occupied by the Estonians, mostly just continuing to further their influence over the Baltic Sea. It's less complete than Rome's, but Estonia's ruling the Baltic Sea, Rome's ruling the Mediterranean, Punt rules the Red Sea, South China Sea is more competitive. Up here in the north, it's still North China. Japan rules this sea for sure. And then like over here in the Black Sea, it's definitely more of a toss-up, split down the middle, or split three ways between Caucasia, Thessaloniki, thrice red team, and North Anatolia. And then the Caspian's just split down the middle between Caucasia and Caspia. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, that will be the end of this video. Please subscribe, like the video if you liked it. This is a longer video. Coming up now on, it's not 50 minutes, this will be like 40 something, but almost 50 minutes, so that's a record, I think. So yeah, hopefully you liked it. Subscribe por favor, and I'll see you next time for episode 16. Goodbye.